Welcome back to Central Valley Talk. I'm your host, Mike Briggs, and the show is Artists and Authors, where guess who we have as guests every single day? Artists, authors, musicians, and if you're watching, you want to be on our show, you could be on our show. You can show off your art or your book. We love to talk to authors. By the way, check out our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, type Central Valley Talk, and this is why it's important to do that now. We're nearing our millionth view on our YouTube channel, and you could be the millionth viewer. That would be fun. Anyway, today, since it's authors and artists, we have a person who is an author and an artist, and maybe a musician too. I'm going to find that in a second. Carolyn Linn. Welcome, Carolyn.
Thank you.
And you are from Fresno?
I am from Fresno.
Okay. And I know you're an author because your video with you being interviewed by Carol Forbes is on our YouTube channel about your books. I know you're an artist because I see your art. We're going to look at it. You sing too?
I do, actually. Yeah. In fact, I come from a musical family. My mother was a musician, and then she gave us piano lessons and taught us music. And when I ended up having an interest in art, I was the only one of her three daughters that did. Yes, so I'm experienced in all three of those things.
Wow. If you don't mind, just to get started, we're going to look at some of your art.
Yes.
And talk about it, if that's okay. Now, I'm not a big art. Actually, I taught art history at the college level, so I know a little bit about art. But I asked you earlier, I said, I was loading your pictures, and I said, are those watercolors? And you said yes. Okay. And what is this one?
This one is a half-timbered German house that's located within a site that we visited in our 2017 trip to Germany. And it's actually from the Augustinian monastery in Germany.
Now, go ahead to the next one. We'll go through these. This is also in Germany, is that correct?
That's correct. I was there in 2017 with a group that sang in that building, in the Berliner Dome.
And that's, you sang there?
I sang there with the group.
That's how I learned that you were a singer as well. You told me about that. Where is this exactly? It's in Berlin, no doubt.
Yes. Well, it's along the river, and it's a 19th century cathedral, a Protestant cathedral because Germany is Protestant, but it has beautiful interior, and we had the pleasure of singing songs for the 500th anniversary of the Reformation.
Oh, my goodness.
That took place in 2015. And the interior is beautiful, and we sang songs by Mendelssohn and by Bach in German. And
now,
so,
you said Germany's Protestant. Martin Luther was from Germany?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And the 2017 500th anniversary was of his nailing of the theses to the
church
to
door
the church
or something,
door,
yeah.
yes. So that's why we were there. Now, this one happens to be in a castle in France. It's called Chateau Chambord, and it's a tower that has a staircase in it that's a double helix. You know, when you see pictures of the genetic code?
Yeah, DNA, yes.
Well, that's the double
helix.
helix. And Leonardo da Vinci was the one that designed that, that helix or that double staircase. So,
in France. Come back to us for a second there. Marcus, by the way, is our technician. He's a great artist himself.
Oh.
He never says it, but I say it about him all the
Wonderful.
time.
Yes.
Now, we're going to go back to the pictures, but I'd like to talk about process. These are watercolors. And did you paint them in Germany, or did you take some photos and then come back here and paint them?
I take watercolor lessons from Pat Hunter.
Oh, yes, Pat
who
Hunter.
is a local artist, and she's a Fresno enthusiast. She's been wonderful about capturing sites in Fresno. Many of them are gone now, but she's very enthusiastic and supportive of the city. She requires that her students paint off of a photograph that they themselves have taken.
So you took the photo yourself, then you came back here and painted.
Exactly.
The reason I ask about the process, I don't know if you guys are sitting there in Germany and everybody's painting, or I don't know. Sometimes that happens, I think.
Well, that's true. If you're on an art excursion, that would happen, but we were on a different kind of a trip.
Excursion. I read about Winston Churchill a lot, who was a painter, and people would just go and sit with him for hours or weeks and paint alongside him. I thought, wow, what a great life. So,
yes.
Let's go to
this this one is a bush that I took a picture of in Germany, and I don't know what kind of a bush it is, but I just thought it was a presentation. We were there in the springtime, in the early summer, and it was just something that I liked the look
Nice.
of. So
Absolutely beautiful.
I did that. The next one, yeah, that one is on the cover of the book that I printed, or one that I wrote, one of the books. This book is called Loving a Beautiful Mind, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But the cover is a picture of the water garden at Monet's, Claude Monet's home in Giverny, France. And I took the picture and I put it on the book. The book is a story of...
Let's come back to Carolyn on the camera because I want to catch her great expression as she talks about this.
Okay.
Hold the book up one more time. We didn't see
right.
it. There you go.
Okay.
And that last picture, this is the photograph you took.
This is the photograph I took.
The painting we saw painted from the photograph.
From the photograph. Right, exactly.
Now, Monet was from France?
Yeah, well, his home was in Giverny, France.
Okay.
And we visited that, and I took the picture, and then I liked the picture, so the front and the back of the book has the picture on it.
Can we talk about the book for a minute?
Absolutely.
Yeah, tell us about the...
Okay. I can tell you about both books. Do you want me to tell about this one
Yeah,
too?
both.
Okay.
Let's read the book. So we're going to come back to the art, so don't go anywhere.
Okay. I'll take this moment now to tell you a little bit about the two books I have written. The first book is written about, I wrote it about heaven. It's called Heaven is Amazing. My husband passed away in 2004, and about 10 years later, I was thinking, well, I know he's in heaven. I would like to write or know more about heaven. And at that time, there were books and movies coming out about heaven. Heaven is for real, and 90 Minutes in Heaven. And I synthesized that material, put it together, and that's my book about heaven. And then a few years later, I had compiled this book, which was more about the life I lived with my husband. He was a wonderful man that we married right out of school, and I thought he would be a college president, certainly a college professor. And about 8 or 9 years into our marriage, he began to show signs of mental illness. And eventually, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. We were married a total of 41 years, and during that time, our faith grew, my faith grew. We were both believers in Jesus Christ when we married, but my faith grew through this experience. And because we prayed, because we had faith and we trusted a loving God, he was able to function at a high level as a person who's schizophrenic. And he ended up teaching at the college level, 10 years at Fresno State, 12 years at the community college, adjunct faculty. He couldn't teach full-time. That was too stressful for him. But he taught all of those years. So by the time he passed away, he had taught for 22 years and made a lot of friends. And so he was a wonderful man. And this book is called Loving a Beautiful Mind. And if any of you remember the best picture of the year in 2002, it was Beautiful Mind with
yes.
Russell Crowe. And so this is sort of a takeoff on that story because that tells about a very talented man who was schizophrenic and his wife was helpful to him. And so this book is sort of our interpretation of that. So it's...
Tell me your husband's name.
His name was Maynard Linn.
Maynard Linn. So people who went to Fresno State, what did he teach at Fresno
He
State?
taught philosophy.
And then at City College, Fresno
yes,
City?
he taught critical thinking. He also taught some theology courses
Maynard
at
Linn, okay.
Fresno.
Bet a lot of people remember him.
I hope so. But the subtitle of this one is Schizophrenia and an Amazing God. So he's the one we relied on.
Now, this book is about your journey?
Yes, it is, because I wrote it after he passed, but it has a lot of information about the illness. I even have a section in here that talks specifically about schizophrenia. You know, researchers are still learning so much about
Yes,
it. In the
absolutely.
30, 40 years that I've been a part of this world, they haven't found out that much more about where it comes from. And so it has, and mental illness is such a pertinent subject right now because
Yeah,
so
oh
many
boy.
people have experienced
Who should buy
stresses.
this book? Who should read this book?
Oh, everybody should read this book. People who want to have their faith increased and inspired, it's a good one for them. People who are wanting hope out of mental illness. If someone has a mental illness, so oftentimes there is so much discouragement and despair. But because we experienced this before there were support groups like NAMI, and we came through it by the grace of God, and he was productive in his life. And so I want people who are experiencing mental illness in their families to know that they can survive, that their family member can be productive and successful on a certain level, perhaps not at the expectation that we had, but they are able to be successful and survive the illness and thrive in the illness. So these are my 2 books.
Nice. Now, I think people who go into their life and all of a sudden their spouse has schizophrenia, they feel like they're alone and they're the first one, but they're not the first one.
They're not.
That's why that book would be great for somebody.
That's right.
Yeah, if you're watching,
a family member has schizophrenia,
you're watching and someone's in that, get them this book for Christmas, you guys.
Yes,
it'll be fun.
exactly.
Be a good move. I want to. Carolyn T. Linn didn't come here to talk about her book. She came to talk about her arts, but I put her on the spot and made her tell us all about the books. So here's let's do this one.
All right, this picture is of swans. I toured the Rhine. In fact, I toured the world after my husband died. I had 12 years of touring with a lady friend of mine. And so we were all over. So that's why many of my pictures are from foreign places. And along the Rhine River, we took this wonderful trip, and there were swans all over. So finally, I got a good picture of the swans. You can see the eggs in the picture. And I took that picture and recorded that through my watercolor.
Nice. And then finally,
this is Sacré-Cœur. It's a basilica in Paris that many people know is on the hill, and it's a beautiful building. So I did a painting of that, and that is just one of the buildings in France. I went to France 3 years in my early 70s.
Oh my goodness!
I decided I wanted to make my mind sharp. So I took 5 years of French.
Oh my goodness.
I had taught French and I had taught English when I first was out of college or out of school. And then I went into banking because it was a little bit less stressful when my husband was sick and we were raising 2 children 12 months apart. And so I had these wonderful experiences in these different countries. And in France, I was able to speak a little bit of French and enjoy that. And then when I finished those courses, then I began the classes with Pat Hunter. So this is the way I have enriched my life since the passing of my husband and all those very, very stressful years that we lived under the illness.
And most of these pictures were from Germany, I think 2 from France.
That's right.
That's
but
good.
I have been, well, those were the ones that I took because it was those years I was painting with Pat. But I do have photo albums of pictures from all over the world, and I just haven't gotten to those yet.
Before we go, I have a couple more quick questions for you because I'm fascinated by you and your life. But if you want to see or learn more about Carolyn T. Linn, her current website is carolyntlin.usa.com. But after the 1st of January 2023, this video might be up there for 20 years.
That's right.
So
I hope so.
After January 1st, 2023, her web address will be carolyntlin.com. carolyntlin.com. Now, all the pictures we saw today, all the your work today was watercolor. Is that your only medium?
It is now. I always enjoyed drawing. As I say, I was raised in a musician's family, but I ended up in art. So through my public school years, I always took one course. So I learned different expressions, artistic expressions. And in college, I took an oil painting class. But at this stage in life, I'm centering in on the watercolor because it's a good
Put the one
ways.
up of the plant again, because I'm going to ask this next question about that. When you do watercolor, I've never done any painting except for house painting. Is this all one sitting, or is it multi-layered? Are you mixing colors on a palette? How does it all work?
We have a palette of certain colors, and then as we apply the paint to the paper, we do mix them together to find the color that we want, the exact shade that we want. But I have basic colors on my palette, and then you'll see in that one I have reds and I have some pinks, I have greens, and I have some sort of a dark blue in the back there. So it depends on what's required by the painting. And I end up painting them. I meet once a week with the class, and in about 3 weeks or so, I have finished one painting.
One painting, 3 weeks, my goodness. Now, so I looked at that, people might say, oh, that's red and green, but there's hundreds or thousands of different colors in there.
There are.
Yeah.
That's the way art is.
Yes, it
yeah.
is. Carolyn, we're out of time. Anything else you want our viewers to know?
No, I hope you enjoy my books. And my paintings will be on the website that opens up January 1st, 2023.
Our guest is Carolyn T. Linn. She's an artist, an oil painter, an author, and a musician.
That's right.
Thank you for coming on our show. We'll be back with more Central Valley Talk right after this.